Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL for 5% off your order. We're also sponsored by Quiver Time, makers of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine card holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their site for 10% off your purchase. And by Architect, a deck hosting website that doesn't sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them for all your deck list needs. Now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Quiver, Cool Stuff Inc., and Architect. And today I have one of the opposite of Casual Magic players, one of the greatest competitive players of all time, Hall of Famer, Gabe Nassif, all the way from France. I'm super excited to talk to you, actually. This is hella cool. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey Shivam, hey everyone. Yeah, no, super excited to be here. I love talking about magic, so
It turns out the one thing Magic players like to do is talk about Magic cards. Um, and I don't know, you're one of those players that I have always watched for years and years and years, ever since I started watching coverage. And I was just like, damn, I'm never going to be able to talk to this guy because I don't go to pro tours. Until recently, I didn't go to like tournaments or anything. I'm a commander player. I have no reason to ever run into you. So meeting you in Minneapolis in person was like, holy crap. Oh my God, it's Gabe Nassif. And it's funny because I go to any of the other rooms in Minneapolis and people are like running to meet me, and I go to the Pro Tour area and I'm like, oh, is that Reed Duke? Oh my God, that's Mangucci, And I end up being like a 12-year-old all over again.
yeah, it was really cool that we were much closer this time in Philadelphia. We're a little further
Yeah.
apart, but this setup was nice.
Yeah. Philly was like, you guys were in your own almost zip code, completely far away from everybody. But this time around, it was right in the heart of the show. So we could all just come up and watch, and it was super fun because I remember actually watching you play in Worlds 2010 in San Francisco. Because I went because I was like the first tournament I'd ever gone to, and so I stood and on the rail and I'm just peeking over and trying to understand what's going on. And it's a lot harder without having like Marshall commentate in my ear telling me what I'm looking at. But it's super fun to watch like competitive people play. How did your tournament go?
Not great. It started off really well. I was 6-2 on day one, and
Damn.
day two the wheels fell off a bit, mostly due to my poor play. Honestly, I didn't play very well. Day one, I was playing kind of okay, getting away with it when I didn't, and
Mm.
day two, I kind of one of those days where you get max punish for every mistake you make.
That was all three of my days in Minneapolis. um, but I guess that's just commanders. You get max punish for everything you do all the time. Um, so would you say that you're more into limited or into constructed play generally?
Definitely more into constructed, even though I do love limited. The way the tournaments have been structured recently has been more emphasis on constructed, especially during the MPL year. There was pretty much no limited, but
Yeah, that was not my favorite because I love watching people draft and actually like play limited matches. But um, you've been playing competitive Magic since like the dawn of competitive Magic, haven't you?
not quite, Raf Levy or John Finkeldon, but yeah,
I mean, it's hard to be Raph Levy level though. Like he's like,
yeah.
I've been playing Magic for 4 decades or something.
Also, they're a bit older than me, but yeah, I played my first pro tour when I was 16.
Jesus Christ.
I'm 39 now.
You know, I went to my first Pro Tour as a guest at 42. So I'm waiting for Larrabee to give me a special invite so I can come and lose in the first two rounds and go home. I don't think that's going to happen. They don't invite casuals to the Pro Tour.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about the special invite thing. I don't know, the other day for some reason. I was wondering if they would ever
I thought it
start
was
handing those
cool.
out. Yeah, I thought it was a good idea. The problem is they're trying to keep the Pro Tour at a set size. So if they start giving more invites, they have to take them from slots. But yeah, I thought it was a good idea when they used to do that for the Pro Tour.
Yeah, it was just neat to see like random celebrities or I don't know, content creators or whatever showing up at the Pro Tour. But I can also understand like it's the Pro Tour, you want the best possible players. But I mean, these guys are all going to get washed in the first two rounds anyways. Who cares? Let them have some fun.
Yeah, definitely had mixed feelings when they did it for the MPL. But as you said, when there's, especially the PTs at that time were kind of out of proportion. It was like four or five, almost 600 players, I think, towards the
Jeez.
end. So yeah, what's a few invites?
Right, exactly, and now it's much smaller, so it feels like giving somebody a free buy-in would be a
Yeah,
little cheaty.
yeah.
Um, so let me pull back though. When did you start playing Magic?
I started playing in middle school. My friends were playing a card game during breaks, and I was like, "What are you guys playing?" And they're like, "Magic." So that's how I got started.
Do you remember what set that was? Like,
Um, I think I like to think that the first booster pack I opened was an Ice Age booster pack and not Homelands, but it was around. I know they had a lot of Homelands cards, and the way I remember it, my first ever rare was Jester Cap. So I literally had
oh my god,
Richard Garfield staring back at me when I didn't know that was Richard Garfield on the picture, but
that's
so
amazing. Man, I remember cracking a Jester's Cap from Ice Age and trading it for all 5 original legendary lands from Legends, and my friends were like, "Jester's Cap is the hottest card in Ice Age, why would you do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but these are legendary lands, it removes Swamp Walk, it's awesome." And of course, now my Caracas is worth way, way more than that Jester's Cap is. Yeah, big brain in 1994 is a good time. Um, so were you in you did you start learning in France? I mean, obviously,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
born
yeah.
here.
I was born in Paris. I've lived my whole life in Paris, and
That's
yeah,
cool.
just started playing with my friends. Then
Do you guys
I,
would play with the French cards and everything?
yeah, yeah. I'm assuming. Yeah, I think the cards were in French.
Yeah, at that point, I think they had started putting them out there. Uh, what how did you learn English? Is that part of, like, going to school and just, like, in
No, no. My mom decided to speak to me in English since I was a baby, so she gave me a little head start. That was nice.
yeah, because 'cause I've watched you stream for quite a bit, and you've got, like, a very fluid, like, fluent accent compared to a lot of the French players I know who's not as, like, proficient. But I guess you've been playing Magic for a long time, and you have to do it in English, so well, you don't have to, but pro play tends to be in English, right? Like,
Yeah,
mostly?
for sure. Yeah, no, and I've traveled a lot to the states. Sometimes people say I almost have an American accent.
You you sound like somebody who immigrated to the States and has been living here for a long time. That's like my parents have a similar kind of accent that you do. Not that they're French at all, but the way that a foreign accent elides into an English one, that's kind of the way you've got like that native speaker for a long time level, which is pretty
Yeah,
cool. It's like sweet.
yeah. It's just on some words I think it comes out, especially the th sound is kind of
Well,
tough for foreigners.
yeah, that sound like that and like the vowel in bird only exists in like American English, and it's very, very tricky. But do you prefer to play like when you go to stores or whatever? Do you prefer to get cards in French or in English?
I think now I just prefer to get cards in English, but
Mm,
I wouldn't mind French. I don't play a ton of paper actually, and I almost never play in paper in France. Pretty much
mm,
just tournaments for
tournaments and
paper
streaming, right?
and online. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think one thing I've noticed for a lot of the people who are like more professional tier players is that everybody is so glad that Arena and Midco exist because they're like, I don't need to have cards in my house all the time anymore. I can just play, buy and sell, and call it a day. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here and my desk literally has towers of cards that are like I just had while you were coming on, I had to grab a stack of random cards that was just falling over onto my microphone. And it's like, oh because commander players are degenerate and we only have cards and paper because
Yeah,
there's
no, it's
no
fun, like sorting through your cards for no reason for hours on end. I mean, it's part of, you know, it makes Magic great.
yeah, I mean, it's the worst thing in the world is when you're like, I need one uncommon from friggin' Ixalan, and it's the only card I need, and I don't want to spend like 50 cents plus shipping or whatever to get it. I opened 100,000 of these packs. I've got to have one of these goddamn cards, and you don't. And you're like, I spent 6 hours digging through garbage bulk for one stupid card that somebody probably threw away because it makes my deck work.
Yeah, my cards are so poorly organized too. Not that I really need them. They're a bunch of old cards for the most part, but
Do
yeah.
you keep any of your old decks around just for like nostalgic purposes?
Not really. I know like Raph keeps all his draft decks from the PT. Have never really done that. I haven't ever kept like decks together. Just no, not super. no.
Not even like when you won like the PT in Chicago, the GP in Chicago for Legacy or like
I mean, to be honest, most of the times the cards are not mine, so a lot of the cards are not mine, so yeah. No, I usually have to give them back after the tournaments.
That is one of the things that I remember when I was first starting to get into competitive Magic and starting to watch you guys play, Reed Duke put out on Twitter once, he's like, "Hey, does anybody have a set of power I can borrow for this random vintage tournament?" And I was like, "Who the hell is gonna lend you a set of power?" And someone else like, "What, you're not gonna lend Reed Duke a set of power?" I'm like, "Well, okay, maybe him, but like but that's when I realized that you guys don't actually own cards, you just borrow them and share them around."
Some are better than others. I play as I said, I play pretty much no paper Magic outside of 4 or 5 tournaments a year. So it's I feel a bit bad relying on my friend and stuff. But yeah, I usually have a few cards, borrow a few, and then buy whatever I have to buy. Sometimes
Yes.
I'll just buy the missing cards and give them to the person who lent me the deck as thank you. And so
It's like a finder's fee. Here, have
yeah.
an elemental or whatever. So actually, I'm curious about that. Like when you're going to a PT or like a big tournament or something, and you know what deck you want, do you know your deck well in advance enough to be able to borrow it, or do you just say bring this block of cards? I'll figure it out when I get there.
Nah, I'll bring the cards that I have that might. Nah, I usually don't. I usually pick my deck, towards the end. It's pretty rare that you know your deck like a week in advance. But yeah, we'll bring cards, and we know we can buy them. Some of my teammates have a bunch of cards, and
Hmm.
people joke. They're like, "You're Gabriel Nassif. People, you'll get cards. You just, send it." Like you said, for Reed, someone linking a power nine. So, but it is the downside is it is a little stressful to have to worry about that stuff because
Yeah.
you're 99.9% of the time you're going to get your cards. But what if you don't? What if you
Right.
submit your deck and then don't find the card and then but
Yeah, like what if
it's
you're playing like in a Pioneer PT and you need one random like uncommon that's going to be your secret tech and there's none in the city that you're in. What do you do?
yeah, no, you have to be at least a little prepared, I guess. But
Yeah. Um so you've been playing like pro magic for a long time. Are you on any of the big teams? You've tested with like everybody, haven't you?
so right now I'm on a, I guess it would be like kind of a channel fireball team, but it's a bit bigger than that. But I'm on the team was Reed, um, people like Martin Yuza,
Mm.
Raf Levy is on our team. There's Jakub Doth, Brent Voss. I don't know. There's like about a 15
Yeah.
of us,
Jeez.
and yeah, I've been on teams for a while now.
S-
I guess before that there
Since
was like,
teams started, basically.
yeah. I mean, I used back in the day. I used to team like to like just test with a few people, and then I would I would test. There was a point where I tested was Mark Herberholz and and Patrick Chapin. That
Oh, geez.
and then we yeah at some point I joined. Team was like Huey, Finkel, Reed, Andrew Cuneo. That's kind of where the pantheon, and then some of them don't play as much, and so yeah,
Well,
not
I mean, people
it's
get
yeah,
older.
it's super important to have a team. It's just so useful, and it's hard to do well if you don't have a good team.
So, can you explain a little bit like what that actually entails? Because like a lot of us, when we're playing Magic, even if we're just like playing FNM tiers, just like you're testing, not even testing, you're just playing your against your friends. What does it mean to actually test for something like a pro tour? What do you do? Like
So
for
we have
standard this time around, like, do you guys just build every meta deck and just fight it, or
yeah, we have a Discord channel. We play games. We try and keep track of the results. We try and maybe post a few sentences after playing a set. Maybe to the for a while we just kind of do whatever we want to do, explore the new cards and try to figure out something, and then maybe towards the end it gets a little more focused and we play sets, you know, in-house kind of sets to get because you don't know if you're doing well on the ladder or in leagues if it's you or if it's the deck. So
Mm,
we so yeah, that kind of stuff. And then the limited part is also important. We draft a bunch and then we have a limited meeting a couple days before the PT where we go through all the
every
all the
single card?
commons, all the uncommons. Yeah, it's super useful. It takes a while. Like last time it took maybe 3 or 4 hours, but it's probably the most useful thing we do.
Yeah, but I mean, because sometimes, like, we hear about things like, "Oh, yeah, they had a limited meeting, they laid out every card in the set." But it doesn't that feel it feels like it loses a little utility when you're talking about, like, the random 23rd pick in the set or, like, the urn that gives you mana filtration or whatever. Do you think it's useful to, like, go down all the way to, like, the garbage commons even?
So yeah, I mean, we tried to get all the cards in paper, and we just kind of laid them out in tier rows. So like, for commons top tier, for blue, like, and then there's maybe like 6 or 7 rows, and obviously we don't discuss like every last pick. Maybe if someone has something they want to say about a card that can be situationally good, they'll mention it. But um, yeah, it's mostly
Mm.
about getting the first few picks right, and discuss the color combinations. And if sometimes there's people be like they'll kind of avoid a color almost at any cost, that kind of stuff. Just um yeah, it's a lot to take in, but I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, because I think it's really important to just, like, see what people come up with when you're playing, like, limited formats, and because sometimes the conventional wisdom is like, "This color is good," and someone's like, "Yeah, but when all the good red cards are coming to me, this is a great deck I can build out of it," that you might have ignored because everybody's telling you not to pick any red cards, unless it's like, Oath of the Gatewatch and it's green, and don't ever do that.
Yeah,
Uh,
and you have the data too from 17 lands, and usually
how
we'll
has
we'll
that changed the way you guys test? Do you, like, look at all that stuff?
yeah, we do, but it's usually just goes was what we find out. It's usually kind of the same feeling, but it's nice to have kind of that confirmation, or maybe a card
Mm.
or two that stands out.
Yeah, because, like, at this point, you have enough intuition and understanding of magic. You don't need like, I would feel that whatever your kind of general thoughts are would line up with the way cards actually work.
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious because when you look at it, when they start previewing a set and when you're looking at new cards, do you start plugging those into, like, standard existing decks, or do you try to, like, how easy is it for you to look at, like, just a list of cards that's coming out and figure out what's going to be good or not in a limited format or constructed or anything like that?
Personally, I don't really do that. I kind of wait till the cards are online and we can actually play with them.
Mm.
And I always say it'd be cool to go back and maybe see what I thought about cards and if I was right or not. But I feel like I'm actually not always super good at judging when a card's going to be great or not. So, like expressive iteration,
Oh
I thought
gosh.
was kind of whatever. I was like, it's almost a bad anticipate, I said, or something. I mean, I was exaggerating, but I was definitely like way off on expressive iteration.
Yeah, that card is nutty. That card is, like, not okay. It's so
Yeah.
dumb. God, I hate it when people play like, expressive iteration, when somebody plays that, you know that you're just not in for a good time. This is not gonna be fun, and we're gonna die. Um, but I don't know, it's hard because 'cause I'm trying to think of, like, you're literally one of the best Magic players of all time. Like, without question, you're one of the people who's most fun to watch. You're incredibly good and incredibly fast at playing, and you've come up with some ridiculous decks over the years. Like, didn't you come up with, like, 12 post or tooth and nail or something to that effect?
Yeah, it was tooth and nailed and block constructed. It was actually not me originally. The original idea was from a Belgium players that I tested with, but I guess I tuned the deck, or we tuned the deck. I was a big part
Mm.
of tuning the deck, and I did well with it. There was, I think, a couple other people who did okay with it at that tournament, but yeah, 12 or yeah, Cloud Post, tooth and nail.
Yeah, man, I love that deck until they banned Cloud Post later on, but I don't know, I'm a big fan of generating a ton of mana and putting large creatures into play, so that deck was right up my alley. Um, what would you say is your strength as a Magic player? Like, what makes you so good as opposed to, I don't know, any of the other 250 people at the tour?
I'm not sure what really differentiates me. I don't know. I feel like I've just had a really for lots of fortunate circumstances to get where I am. I attribute a lot of it to just living in Paris and having being able to play against a lot of good players, and we had an awesome local game store back in the day. So I basically spent my entire free time outside of school there, after school vacation there every day. So that was how I was able to get so good, just being able to play a ton and play against other really good players. Um, and I guess just always question myself, always like put Yeah, kind of.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, it's because that's one a consistent thing that I hear from like top tier players is like not necessarily that, oh yeah, I'm just hella good at magic, but the people you're playing against are just at a high enough level that you have to keep competing with them. That when you go out to play against the wider pool of players, suddenly it's like taking all the weights off and you're like just significantly top tier because you're used to playing against really, really high level players. Like, I live very close to Channel Fireball's actual, like, headquarters, so a lot of the stores around here for years and years were trying to feed into, like, that pro scene there, so they're all very, very good players, and you'd be at F&M and be just very cutthroat Magic because everybody wants to be up there with Luis and everybody in Channel Fireball, and so when you go outside of this range and start playing against other people in other stores, you're like, "Oh, I'm just better than a lot of these people because I'm just fighting against guys who wanna be on the Pro Tour all the time." And it's
yeah,
forcing you to get better, right?
no, for sure. It was especially true back in the day, and when I started playing my big tournaments and stuff,
Mm.
I would show up and I had no idea. I was like, "Is my deck even any good?" And so I was always super nervous for the first round, and then I play the first round, and I was like, and it goes pretty well. I was like, "Oh, that was kind of easy," you know. I remember my very first pro tour in Chicago was standard, and I get paired against Christian Lures, who was a player from Germany, and he had top aided in Chicago the year before. It was different format I was constructed. I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe, you know, how unlucky I am just getting paired against. And I like kind of beat him pretty easily, you know. And I was like, okay, that wasn't that bad. Or, I have a couple of stories like that where moments where I was like, okay, maybe maybe I can do that. It's what you said. We just had like pretty high level play back in
It's a
Paris, and
cool feeling, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
To be like, "Oh my god, like, what was that like when you first got onto the Pro Tour and you're starting to play against, like, I don't know, folks like Finkel or Kai Budde or whatever, and you're seeing that you're able to go toe to toe against some of these people who are even then just incredibly good Magic players."
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Back in the day, there was a lot of French players who didn't have the greatest reputation. When I started playing, it wasn't as bad anymore,
Mm.
but there was a bit of of a wild wild west of Magic where there's a
Yeah.
bit of cheating going on, and
Mhm.
it was there was rumors and stuff, and I was convinced that uh, it sounds so dumb now, and you hear it from people, and whenever I hear them, I'm like, this is so stupid. But I thought like a lot of the best players just won because they cheated or something. So I'm playing in this Grand Prix in London, and I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing well. I'm on day two. I can still make top eight, and I get paired against Brock Parker.
Oh, jeez.
And I asked my friend, I'm like, man, he's come all the way from the US. Uh, I'm like, do you think he cheats? And he's like, yeah, I mean, he's coming all the way from the US to play a Grand Prix, probably. So I'm like, I'm so resigned. I literally sit down. I'm like, I'm just going to get cheated. There's just nothing I can do. Just resign. And we shuffle. I, I draw my opening seven. He mulligans to five. I win pretty easily. Game two, I'm like, okay, this sounds pretty good. He mulligans to six. He like misses this for a land drop or whatever. And I beat him. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they don't, maybe it's
Maybe
not
they
like
don't cheat, maybe they just suck.
that. No, I mean, he was really good, but, a really good player, obviously. And, we became good friends later. But yeah, it was, but it's kind of a fun moment for me, anyways.
Yeah, that must have been really like, "Oh, wait, maybe they aren't all just scum trying to screw."
Yeah, no,
like,
there was very few really.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
no, it was,
Mind you, there was a lot of cheating back then. There was a lot of just shenanigans in early Magic. People like, trying to play sleight of hand tricks and pull cards to the top or stack their deck in weird ways. Every time like you cheaters get caught in Magic, I'm just so disappointed. I'm like, you were so good by yourself. You don't need to do this.
yeah.
Did you ever get to play with the Ruel brothers?
Yeah, they lived near Paris. They lived in Paris, so I was pretty good friends with them, especially with Antoine, who's the older of the two. And
Yeah.
he was actually kind of my chaperone for my first PT because my mom was a little worried, and then I think he came over and he talked to her and he was like, okay, we've done that. It's not a big deal. And I was traveling with him when I went to my first PT.
Which was it? What was your first PT? You said Chicago?
Yeah, it was Chicago 2000. It was
Oh
the
my
one
goodness.
Kai won was Rebels. It was the
Oh
top eight was
god, that
Kai,
deck.
Kibler. It was pretty stacked top eight. I think Finkel. It was I think in that top eight as well.
God, that was a yeah, mask block constructed or something like that.
No, it was standard. It was
It was
standard.
standard. Well, I mean, even then, it's still just Lin Civi mirrors.
Yeah, a lot. And I was playing. I had my blue sky deck that I tested and stuff, and I did pretty good. I think I top 64, but you needed I think top 32 to
Mm.
automatically requalify for the next one.
W- It must have been wild to travel to America for the first time to go play Magic, though, right? Like that was probably a cool feeling.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember, but
Yeah, it was
it
20
was it
years
was in
ago.
Chicago. It was I remember that it was freezing, and we got there and we were staying in kind of a seedy hotel called it's actually a famous building in Chicago. It's called the Tokyo Hotel, I think. And that elevator, that dude who operated the elevator by hand, his job was to sit in the elevator and just yeah, it was. I think we shared a room, like because we had no money, so
Oh
we
yeah,
shared a room with a lot of yeah.
I've gone to a lot of the tournaments where it's like there's 12 of us and a room made for two people because we are all poor and we just want to play cards.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you about Dragonstorm because this is one of my favorite. Like, this is one of those clips that just shows up all the time of you versus Chapin playing in like that one, I don't know, incredibly cool tournament. And uh didn't what it was like Ignite Memories or something, right? Like
Yeah,
that.
it was New York. It was New York 2007. It was the World Championship, the semifinals of the World Championship, and I
Yeah.
basically had to dodge copies of Ignite Memories. I had one Rite of Flame in my hand and two expensive cards, and I had to hit like right like 3 times. I was like, when you look at it, you literally feel like it's like a one in a million shot, but it really was closer to like 10% me surviving. And I did survive. I won that game. Unfortunately, I lost. I ended up losing the match, but yeah, that
But
was a
yeah,
fun
though
tournament.
that game is still okay. So for the folks at home who don't remember Time Spiral cards, Ignite Memories is a sorcery that costs 4 and a red, and it says target player reveals a card at random from their hand, and Ignite Memories deals damage to that player equal to its mana value, and it's got Storm, so you can pop off and like if they've got an expensive card in their hand, they will just eat a bunch of damage, and like Chapin cast that on you, right?
Yeah,
And so you had to just sit there and be like, "Okay, well, what life total were you at when you did that?" It was something tragically low, wasn't
yeah. It
it?
was. There was probably like 3 or 4 copies of the spell, and I was maybe at 6 or 7. And
Yeah,
I
so
think,
you were like in any normal circumstance, you would have just died, like, you
yeah,
should have, really,
yeah,
but you just kept like, the fact that he kept whiffing was just like, "Oh god, this is so cool." I mean, it
yeah.
was incredibly tense, incredibly fun to watch.
Yeah, I think my hand was like a 1 mana spell, a 2 mana spell, and then I probably had like a Dragonstorm. So if I hit the Dragonstorm and dead on the spot, and then I had to hit a combination of the 1 mana spell enough times, and so yeah,
Yeah,
it
man.
was it was it was it was nuts.
I love that, and the fact that you only had, like, 4 dragons in that deck anyways, it's like Bogart and Hellkite or something, which is just,
Yeah,
okay, well, you Dragonstorm 4 times, you hit him and you nug him for 20, call it a day. Uh, I don't know, I love that kinda combo deck, I think those are super fun, but man, Ignite Memories is a card that like, you look at this card and you're like, "This doesn't seem like it should be a Pro Tour card." This is, like, too random. Pros hate this stuff. How would that happen? Like, but I
yeah.
guess
I
it's
mean,
really
even the
good, but
whole deck, the Dragonstorm, it
yeah.
was a wild deck. It was really good, but it
Like, yeah,
was
when you think of 9 mana sorceries, the Pro Tour is not where you're thinking that's gonna be.
no.
But, man, that card is awesome. I love Dragonstorm, I still love it. Um, so what was it like getting into the Hall of Fame?
Getting into the Hall of Fame was actually not like super special because no, but in a way that I guess I don't know. Maybe I don't value these things as much as other people, even though
Mm,
I think it's really cool. And it was not a surprise. So
mm,
they always say it's about the journey, not the destination, and that's
sure,
that's how it felt a bit with the Hall of Fame. It's getting in itself, I guess, was not a huge deal to me. It was cool though. It was in Japan, and I flew my mom out, so we got
that's
to
cool.
she got to be there, and we I was gonna say we got to sightsee a bit, but I ended up doing very little sightseeing. She mostly sightseed was my wife. Um, but
But that's still cool that she could be there. Has she,
yeah.
like, supported your Magic playing for the past 20x years?
At the beginning, not especially. I was not allowed to play at one point, but I just kept playing in secret, and it got
Yeah.
caught, and then she just gave up. And um, no, it was funny actually. So that happened, but she let me play. But so I was convinced that she wouldn't let me go at the pro tour even if I qualified. So I used to just literally play PTQs for just for fun and to compete. And I would just scoop to my friends. I would just play until I played one of my friends, and I would just scoop to them. So I even went one day. One day I went to a PTQ. We drove like eight hours there, and I wasn't even trying to qualify. I just won the first 4 rounds. Got paired against a friend, scoop. So I did that a few times, and then that's how I qualified for my first pro tour. There was European Championship in Paris,
Mm.
and I wasn't qualified, but I played the PTQ, and I play and I win a bunch, and I just since it was a European Championship, there's a lot of players I didn't know from other countries, so I kept playing against people I didn't know, so I kept winning, and then I eventually I get to the semifinals, and there's 2 slots, so I'm like,
Oh,
I call home, and I'm like, my brother picks up. And I'm like, listen, if I win this next match, I qualify for the pro tour. If I win, will you help me convince mom to let me go? And he's like, sure, just go beat the guy. So I'm like, okay. So I win, and yeah, that was
that's
almost like
awesome.
kind of random that I even qualified for my first PT, and then ever since she's been, yeah, especially when you
Well,
start doing well and stuff. But yeah.
how did she react when you came home and said, "I won, mom?"
Yeah. No, she's been really supportive after that. But I mean, it's normal. You see your kid who just spends his entire life just playing a card game, and it's probably not a great, probably sensible to think it's not a great idea.
No. It's funny, like, I sit there and I watch my own son trying to sit there and collect Pokemon cards or Magic cards or whatever. I'm like, "No, don't do that. Don't follow into the trap. Learn from my lesson."
Yeah, I wonder. I definitely got really lucky. I wonder what would my life be like if I was, maybe decent at Magic, but not as good as I was, and if I had, to do something else. But
Like, did you go to university or anything?
I did, but I ended up dropping out in the third year. Yeah.
You're getting better results in PTs anyway, so if you can string it together into an actual salary, then just do it.
Yeah.
The problem is it's very hard for a lot of people to do that. Some small amount of people can do that,
Yeah.
and so being good at the game makes it much easier to live off of playing the game, I guess. Um, what would you say? Like, I guess, yeah. Also, for you, like, for a lot of people, getting to the Hall of Fame is kind of like the capstone of a career. Like, oh, I've made it. I'm done. Yeah, I'm being plotted. But you kept playing. You've been playing now for another decade plus since getting into the Hall of Fame. Like the
Yeah.
most consistently, like always on the tour, always at the GP. Like, so it doesn't feel like it was a stop for you as much as it was just like a rest stop before you kept going up. So,
Yeah, it kind of I think it kind of was in some way. I think maybe mentally you maybe don't try as hard. Also, I played way less for like almost, maybe 7 years. I was full-time poker player.
mm,
So I didn't skip I've barely skipped any PTs. So there was a stretch of maybe 7 years where I would show up to every PT. I'd get with my friends and teammates for a week. We'd get a testing house, and um, but I played no Magic in between, and I don't have a single PT top eight during that stretch because it's really hard to do well at the PT. Unless you're Finkel or something, it's really hard to do well at the PT without playing a lot of Magic.
right. I mean, it's actually kind of yeah, because if you just come back for a week and you're like, "Okay, I've got the Hall of Fame entry, so I'll just go jump in," and you're looking at cards that you've barely looked at all, and you don't know what they do or how they interact, yeah, of course you're gonna get shellacked at a PT. It's
Yeah.
still the Pro Tour level players, right? Those guys are all very good. And then
Yeah, yeah,
Finkel, of course, just comes back for a weekend and wins a Pro Tour, and you're like, "What the hell, man?"
yeah.
It is
Uh,
weird to me that Finkel has had like 3 Hall of Fame careers. Whenever he feels like coming back, he gets, like, all the way to the top again. And I'm like,
Yeah, I was
Stop.
actually thinking about him earlier. I was like, maybe I should message him, tell him Barcelona is lovely in July because he hasn't used his Hall of Fame PT invite yet. We get one a year now, which I think is good given the system, given the smaller size of the PT. I think it's fair, you know.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, what do
and
you think
yeah,
about organized play now? Because I know that during the pandemic era and, like, a little before, it was not great, and the MPL was fine, but it was not great. What do you think of what Huey's done now and, like, how it's looking going forward?
I think they're doing a really good job. Honestly, I agree with most of the decision, you know, including the one to, you know, it wasn't super popular within the Hall of Famers when they said we would only get one PT invite because, you know, they say, okay, you
Yeah,
get an invite to every PT. But I was like, no, that makes sense. You know, it's too big of an edge.
yeah,
The fields are smaller. You get to qualify for Worlds too easily. And no, I think they've made a lot of great decisions. And, you know, at the last PT, we had the players' party, they had the little players' lounge during the PT, which we didn't have in Philly, which they've had a few times in the past. They used to have it at some point. It kind of came and went, but yeah,
yeah.
no, it's been really cool. It's really felt like the PT, like the old PTs at
Yeah, it
Vegas.
feels like they've definitely it feels more player centric. It feels like it's more aimed towards making a more comfortable environment for you guys, and really for us, I think the next tier up would be making an area for people who are not playing to be able to watch the PT at the conventions or the PT. Because it sucks that I had to go, like, pull up my phone to be able to watch coverage or whatever, right? Like, I'm
Yeah,
standing here. Why can't I go sit down
yeah.
in a nice chair and watch it on screen? It would be sweet.
I thought they were supposed to have kind of a viewing area at
Only for
in.
top 8.
Okay,
Yeah. Because, like, I mean, I think it would be neat between events or whatever, like, to just sit down and be able to watch a PT or something, like, use a panel room, like,
yeah.
I don't know.
No, for sure. Honestly, even like sometimes the Swiss is more exciting than the actual top eight in some ways because you get to see the narratives and the different
Yeah.
decks, and you get to see more decks. And
I think that's actually it for me. It's like there's a lot more variety in Swiss because in the top 8, it's like, okay, well, it's the same, 7 Demir decks or whatever going up against each other. I think, like, the worst was, like, PT Oko, where it's like, "Well, look, it's another Oko mirror," or "Yorion mirrors all day long, yay." Um, at least when you're watching the Swiss, you can see the random people with their Maverick decks trying to get up and down, and
yeah,
s that's why I like limited. All the limited decks are different, and they never feel the same. Even when they filter to the top, they're all still enough variety that it doesn't get boring to watch. Um, that and I also just like to watch people play with commons and garbage cards because it's fun. It's limited is, like, super fun to play. Um, man, you've just done so much. I was, like, looking earlier, I'm like, "What the hell do I even talk to you about?" You've been at every tournament there is. You've been to, like, so many of these damn tournaments. You've done at a high tier at, like, all of them. What would you say has been your favorite deck you've gotten to play?
oof. I'm really bad with these questions. My memory is pretty bad, and um,
Okay, well,
I've
then, if they had an invitational and you could come bringing any deck you wanted, what would you do?
I have a special place in my heart for Enchantress decks. I
Mm,
top hated my first French nationals was an Enchantress deck back in Standard. I
I love
almost
Enchantress.
won. I almost won a Masters. Was Enchantress. I had to win the grinder, kind of the last chance qualifier. I qualified into the Masters, and then I made a run all the way to the finals. I lost to Bob Maher in the finals. So yeah, Enchantress,
Yeah,
special place in my heart, I guess.
I love Enchantress decks. There's 2 of my commander decks are Enchantress based on, like, old pickles lock type of things, and it's silly and super fun. I actually got to meet Bob Maher in Philadelphia, and I was like, "Wow, this I'm sitting next to Dark Confidant. What the hell?" It's super weird. Sheldon Menery took us all out to dinner, and so we all got to hang out and just chat about things. I'm like, "Wow, this dude's, like, just a dad now, and it's
Yeah,
random."
no, Bob is yeah, he's a super nice guy. He was like really tough in tournaments. I played against him in my very first pro tour, and he kind of he used all his not sure how you say it, but
He's
he didn't do
intimidating.
anything like illegal, but he definitely tried to put some pressure on me. I think it worked too. I think I like messed up and stuff, but he was like kind of trying to rush me and kind of
Corner
call a
shooting,
judge.
maybe? Angle
Uh,
shooting, that's a word.
no, no, nothing. No, just
Well,
more
maybe
like
not, but just kind of, like, using psychological pressure to
yeah,
make sure that
yeah.
you're like. stressing
Yeah.
out. That's clever. I mean, I wouldn't say that's great, but it's also fun sometimes to watch and see that kind of just mind gamey stuff. Like
Yeah,
when like Luis taps pens and messes with people's heads and
I tease him about it sometimes. He doesn't deny it.
um so who have you been your like favorite people to play against?
To play
Yeah,
against?
like when you're in a tournament, you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be a fun match." Or do you
Um,
not think like that?
mm, it's gonna be a fun. No, not really. It's like old business, and it's like just try to be focused.
Yeah.
Um, maybe some players that I'll be maybe a little more laid back. I guess playing against my friends is good because I guess I don't mind losing to my friends as much, but also my friends are usually really good at Magic, so I'd rather not get paired against them.
That's
Um,
true. Um, have you gotten a lot of I mean, well, you've obviously played against like everybody who's at the pro tour, so saying like, "Hey, have you played against any many Japanese players?" But the Japanese players are always just like so focused and fun to watch, and but they're always just like playing so fast and so like I don't know how you guys on the pro tour keep up with everything because everybody's just either they're going glacially slow or they're going blazing fast, and there's like no delay unless a judge forces you to slow down. It's
yeah. I have kind of a reputation of a slow player. I don't think I'm actually as slow as people think I am. I just play, I play a lot of control decks, so
well, yeah,
my
you have
rounds
to.
might go, a bit longer. But I did, yeah. Last PT I got paired against Shoda, and he plays so fast, and I found myself kind of trying to almost match his pace. I'm like, this is not good. I'm
You
gonna,
can't match Shota.
you
Shota's
know,
gonna just like run. He's like Sonic the. I mean, it's weird. You look at Shota. He's a very stern, very quiet guy, and then he's playing, and it's just like boom, 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 and you're
yeah,
like, bro, chill. We've got time. There's still an hour on the clock. Maybe let's.
yeah.
I don't know. I love watching control mirrors. I hate playing control, but I really enjoy watching other people play control because it's very like it feels much more mental and much more challenging. Um, I don't know. I have a very hard time because I always want to tap out my mana on my turn all the time, and you can't do that and be a control player because like you need to leave up counter spells and play flash. I'm like, I don't want to play on your turn. I want to play on
Yeah.
my turn and then like check out of the game for an hour. Um, I'm going to ask. Let's see. God, I had a question 10 seconds ago. Oh man, what do you think about standard right now?
I kind of love standard. I really like it when I have to test for a tournament and have a goal. That really helps.
Hmm.
Um, it's almost always fun when you're preparing a tournament, even if the format's not the best. But I, I've kind of enjoyed standard. I even enjoyed it 6 months ago after Nathan won Worlds, and it was old Grixis mirror matches. There was
Oh,
not a lot
jeez.
of
Oh,
diversity, but I was really enjoying these matches. I enjoyed testing for that standard, even some of the cards are probably a little too good, and I'm guessing we're going to see some of them go very soon.
yeah.
But
I
I
hope Invoke goes, man. I hate Invoke so much.
yeah,
It,
no, I've been really enjoying the gameplay. I feel like the games are kind of grindy. All the there's a ton of little decisions that matter. Um, I've
yeah.
I've I've kind of liked it, honestly.
It's really fun, and I mean, it feels like it's gotten a lot better than it was. Like, in the last few years last 2 years, so standard has just been not a good place, but I mean, everybody knows about that. We've talked about that ad nauseum. It's much better now. It feels more fun. It feels more interesting, and it feels as long as I mean, Reckoner Bank Buster is annoying, and I'm tired of that card, but otherwise,
Yeah,
I don't know, I'm just really enjoying it. When did you really start streaming full time?
started about I think 2017. Basically, I'd been kind of not enjoying playing poker for a living
Actually, can we
anymore.
go back and I'm curious about poker. That's what I was gonna ask you about.
Yeah.
When did you start playing poker professionally? Because
Well,
you won
that's
like a lot of money even playing poker, didn't you?
not as much as you look up numbers, but it's like tournament earnings, so you have to like divide
Oh,
those by 10 or something.
right.
But no, that's kind of why I dropped out of college. I started making a decent living. I'd
Mhm.
never I didn't even know what poker was before I went to a Magic tournament. It was 2002. I was staying in Maryland. It was Huey and Efro and Brock, and
Mm.
I was like, what are you guys doing? They were playing online poker, and I was like, what is this? And they showed me. So I came back. they kind of, I started playing a bit. I like,
There's only 52 cards to remember?
yeah, I was like, well, I have a bit of money from Magic, so I'll put $500 down, and if I lose it, oh well, I'll move on. And if I don't, so I put 500, run it up, cash out, my 500 to be like at least even, lose it, cash back in 500, and I kind of pop off and started doing well. And it was back when there was very little info. So knowing, these Magic players who were really pretty good and being able to talk strategy was just such a huge advantage.
Right.
So I was able to, we weren't great, but we're so much better than most people because a lot of people were really bad back then. So I was able to start, making some money, and it slowly took more and more place over Magic.
Hmm.
And from like maybe 2000, that was the stretch from maybe 2010 2017, where I would just show up at the PTs, not do well, and or not do especially well. But yeah,
Well,
and
you
then
go to the PT to hang out with your friends probably.
yeah, no, exactly. It was more like my vacation. And yeah, towards the end, I was like not super happy playing online poker. It was a bit of my doing. I was not really trying to keep getting better, and I didn't have like a group of friends to talk to. I don't know why. Like in retrospect, it was kind of dumb. I was just kind of on my own online, playing online every night, and I was just not that happy. So I went had a sponsor, which I lost because they kind of moved out of France. I didn't have the sponsorship money, but I was still doing okay. So I was like, I'll keep doing it. And at some point, I hit a downswing, which had happened multiple
Sure.
times before it happened. It's up and downs, but I was like, okay, no more sponsor. Hit a downswing. I'm not very happy, and we had been streaming a bit with our team because we had this idea at one point to be like, okay, there's like 12 of us. If we each stream once or twice a week, that's a full stream schedule, so we could have like a team channel.
Oh, that's
um,
cool.
yeah, we tried it, but people weren't really into it. I kind of enjoyed it. I was like, oh, that was kind of fun. Maybe I should try being a streamer. And it was back when it looked like things were kind of changing at Wizards too. They were,
Mm.
that just recruited a bunch of people, and I was like, oh, maybe there's good things to come. And I was like, yeah, maybe it's a good time to get back into Magic and see if I enjoy streaming. So I gave myself 6 months um, to see if I could make a living, and yeah, it went well.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched your stream. I mean, like there aren't very many Magic streamers that I'll watch, but like I watch you, I watch Mengucci because he's on it like late night for me. And then like, the loading ready run people, but the way you stream and they stream is very different. So it's a nice way to get my kind of full allotment of Magic play. Um but and it's also just a good way to stay engaged with the game and with the community and with the like just keep yourself like afloat and just like in the game proper, especially if you're like not like playing in a store all the time or testing anymore. Because I think for like people of your echelon, you can't even just go to a store and just say like, "Hey, I just want to play Magic," without having people either come up to you or just trying to play differently because you who you are, right?
No, I doubt it. Actually, I mean, especially if you have a local game store, it's not like anything
Well, I guess
special
yeah,
anymore, and I'm sure I'd be fine. And I just,
you
I'm
just
happy.
life is different.
Happy online, and um, I stream. So when I'm not streaming, I usually like to do something else. I don't play a ton of Magic outside of the stream.
Yeah, because there's you can't relax from work by playing more Magic because that's just more work. And then you're like, I
Yeah,
could be streaming this, and then you end up in a cycle. To go read a book or something, it's fine. Um, okay, I'm gonna wrap up with this. Can I ask where did you get that yellow hat from?
yeah.
Like, why do they call you yellow? I mean, I know why they call you yellow hat because it's literally yellow and it's a hat. But like
I
you,
yeah, it was a gift actually. I was so when I was young, there was that hip hop band, French hip hop band called the Science Super Crew that I really liked, and their thing was they would dress in yellow. So I went to one of their concerts, had that yellow T-shirt of theirs, and yeah, it was one of my friends who gave me she like bought that kind of fisherman's hat. I don't know what you want
yeah,
to call it,
like a
and
fisherman's
she's
hat or a bucket
yeah,
hat or something.
bucket hat, and she just spray painted it in yellow, and it was a birthday gift. So, and I decided to wear it at my first pro tour, and Eric Froelich, Efro claims that he was the first one to call me yellow hat. So that's where it comes
Yeah,
from.
I don't know, I think it's super cool. It's like it's neat to have, like, the characters, like, identifying characteristics like that. I think it's super sweet. Also, I love French hip hop. If I had known, I would have talked about that for a long time. Like,
Now our
listen
podcast about friendship.
oh, man, listening dude, Tappy talked about Eurovision, I'd happily talk about French hip hop. You should, send me some of your favorite bands because I love there was a podcast in the mid-2000s called Yo La La, which used to put on, like, an hour-long, 2 hours, like, set list of just French hip hop music and, like, R&B and B and stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, let's go. I wanna just listen to French people sing at me all the time."
Yeah.
Um, my French language skills, like French was like the 6th or 7th language I picked up, but nowadays the best I can do is like, "Quel temps fait-il aujourd'hui?" It's like,
Oh,
that's
no
not
big
really
deal.
useful.
What, six or seven language?
Well,
Sick
it's like,
brags.
at my peak, it was like 15, but I'm not there now. I'm down to like 4. Um,
What are the four?
well, it's like English, Gujarati, which is my native language, Hindi, well, okay, like 5, Japanese and Spanish.
Wow.
Because
Jeez.
I live in California, everybody speaks Spanish, you just learn it. And I lived in Japan, I spoke Japanese, and my parents both speak they came from India, so I
Yeah.
speak various languages back home. And, like, if you know any combination of these 2, most other Northern European languages are pretty easy to learn. Like, all the Romance languages and stuff, it's all kind of the same. When I speak in Italian, it just sounds like I'm speaking bad Spanish, though, so I stopped doing that. And, like, French, I can read, but speaking French is just like, the nah,
Yeah.
that's too weird, man. Uh,
Yeah. No.
but I do love listening to French music.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
listen to as much music as I should, but I'm not huge on the whole auto tune thing, I guess. But yeah,
yeah, well, that's
I still,
trends,
I, I
right? But
still, I still, I still listen to some of the old school like French hip hop from the
yeah,
90s, 2000.
I mean, that's because that's when we were kids, and all the music is
Yeah,
cool when you're a kid, right?
nostalgia, I guess.
What is that trophy behind you?
The one
Oh, you have
there's
two
like
trophies. What are those?
Player of the Year, 2003, 2004. There's Kobe Finals. There's a few. Yeah, I have my trophies behind me.
Yeah,
I
sorry, I
think
was
I've
just looking at
actually,
like
I think I've
big.
lost one actually. I think I've lost one of my PT Finals trophy.
Yeah, you could probably ask Hugh to send you another one if you really wanted to. Um, wow, man, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciated being able to talk to you.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I was like, going down Mary Lane and talking about that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. It's fun.
it's cool just because I like to see perspectives of Magic that I don't normally get. And as a dedicated casual, being able to talk to like, hey, what's it like to just play in the Pro Tour all the time is very different. Do
Yeah.
you get any chance to go see the actual Magic cons when you're at these Pro Tours, or are you just too busy in the Pro Tour area?
So in Philly, I went during one of like the very first round. I won really fast, and I went to check it out. But there's the booth, but there was not a ton going on. And this time around, no, I should have. I don't know why I didn't at all. But
Yeah,
I played a PT, and then we're kind of beat at the end of the day. And there's not a ton of downtime in between rounds.
fair.
And then on Sunday, I guess I was just kind of hanging out, drafting with my friends. But yeah, I should have. I don't know why I didn't.
I mean, it's funny because I ran into Frank Karsten, because he's walking around and doing coverage stuff, and he was out on the show floor, and I'm talking to him. I'm like, "Yeah, this must be very different from like the grand silent halls of the PT." He's like, "Yeah, at the Pro Tour, people aren't chanting my name the way they are for the Game Nights live video over there."
Yeah, I heard it was nuts. People were literally
Oh, it's
going so
amazing.
crazy for it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like watching a pro wrestling match or something. People are just screaming their signs and chanting. It's Magic as you guys like Magic in the Pro Tour and then Magic in the rest of the hall is like 2 different worlds.
Yeah, no, I mean, Commander is so huge. It's nuts.
You should play sometime. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I should. We'll
You could
see.
talk to Matt Sperling. He's figured out how to turn Commander into a pro sport.
Shui was telling me about it. He was joking. He was like, telling me like, yeah, Commander, that they're like, you have to not do too much in the early turns and let people do their thing. And he was like, listen, we're gonna have a problem. if, I play a game,
Yeah, let me just say that control is not the most popular archetype in Commander. People don't really like it when you start countering their spells, so you might have a
yeah.
problem. Okay, man. Well, if folks wanted to find you or your stream or your content or whatever, where could they go?
Yeah, I stream most days, twitch.tv/yellowhat. I focus on competitive, but I try to the more I stream, the more I it's more important almost to be just fun place
Yeah.
to hang out and stuff. And almost I feel like sometimes the play and the strategy is secondary. Whereas when I started, I was like, okay, this is my kind of my thing. I'm a really good player, so this is what I'm going to be
What
very.
makes you enjoyable to watch? Like,
Yeah, so I
even
try to
I
find that balance and hope,
yeah.
it's just I want it to be a fun place to hang out first and then Magic second almost. But yeah,
And, have you played any Gladiator yet?
I don't even know what Gladiator
Gladiator
is.
is a 100-card singleton competitive format on Arena that was created by fans. It's really, really cool. You should check it out sometime.
Okay, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully I'll have a reason to play that format. It's that there's so many formats I already have to play. I already feel like I run out of time, but like standard, the new standard, or there's the arena championship this weekend,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, I but I started focusing on modern because that's the next PT, and I was like, I kind of wish I kind of wanted to play that standard, especially after a PT. I usually want to keep playing the format because you learn so much from
Yeah.
playing at the PT and thinking about it's not the same. These 9 or these 16 rounds you played, you feel like you learned so much more than the 100 matches you played before
Oh,
the
yeah.
PT testing and stuff because you're in it, you're talking with people all weekend, so you're like,
I didn't get to ask this, but is it, like, weird when you come back from playing online all the time to having to pick up cards at a pro tour that are, like,
it was. And after COVID I was worried about it, the mechanics. I basically hadn't touched a paper card, and no, it was just
it just
same
comes
old,
back to
honestly.
you? Like,
Yeah,
because I was talking
no.
to Kibler, and he was telling me, he's like, "Yeah, man, turns out counting out cards for draft is just a thing that naturally I'm just good at now, and I just remember how to do that."
Yeah, no, honestly, if you've played your deck a lot and you know your deck and you're comfortable with it online, it definitely translates to paper. I remember there was a nationals a few years ago, and it was when I started streaming again, and I'd not touched a physical card in a while, but I just had the mechanics, and yeah, I played my deck so much that I was able to. It was a control deck too, so I was a bit worried about time constraints too.
Yeah.
And I was fine. I just had like so many reps that it translates. So yeah, don't be worried if you're used to playing online, transitioning to
Yeah,
live play.
but sometimes it
It's the
is a
same
little
game.
complicated to remember how to shuffle, you're like, "Oh
Yeah.
god, what do I do with all these cards? They're so big."
Yeah, I guess it is true. Like, literally, if you've never played paper Magic and
Oh,
you're not used to
yeah.
the shuffling, yeah,
All the
maybe
arena
that's
kids
a
are
little
gonna be like,
tough.
"I don't understand. What do I
Yeah,
do? Where do I put the stops?"
yeah.
Um, I think the weirdest one for me, though, is still, like, I'm just glad that we didn't have to play paper Magic during, like, the Fortell era with Kaldheim or Mutate or anything like that with Ikoria and all that stuff. Having the computer handle all that is way, way easier than trying to, like, mutate 300 cards on the table. Uh,
Oh, yeah. There's day and night, I guess, right now, which
oh
is
god,
not the
that's
best.
such a dumb mechanic. I hate day and night so much. Keeping track of that is, and when you're playing a four-player game, it is miserable to keep track of that stupid thing because it's flipping all the goddamn time, and you're like, "This is."
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Anyways, man, thank you again so much. And once again, if you want to find me, you can find me at Gear Puri Gears. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. on Tuesdays, or at YouTube on Tuesdays as well. Thank you to my editor EK. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.